between the king. I mean, I met Sarkozy, President Sarkozy, both when he was a minister and when he was president, he fell into problems with the law. I mean, you see, I have a photography for him. What does that have to do with me or the country? I have no problem when people ask legitimate questions as you're doing. But in Dominica, we have to move away from this attitude that anything that we believe could bring Dominica down, that some of us are celebrating it. And we need to get the facts of these matters, and then inform of the facts, and not innuendos and aspirations and improper motives and seeking to bring the country down. So we're not at all put about this. There's absolutely no involvement in the economic Dominican whatsoever. I mean, the issue of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency is a global phenomenon now. Even in the United States, the Fidelity Bank offered people to participate in cryptocurrency. In many parts of the developed world, this has been done. Obviously, the issue of cryptocurrency and so on, because it's not regulated by central banks yet, there's an issue of proper regulation, but it's a global phenomenon. It's a global phenomenon, and I think that it's important that countries like ours, we need to look at the opportunities that these things may provide for our young, trained, excited young people who are looking for opportunities, for higher pay, to create a better standard of living for themselves. We must not appear to let the entire world run with it, and then we're trying to, 20 years later, try to do that which many countries have done. And so in our view, I believe that as a matter I've been raising within the Caribbean community for a couple of years now, that we need to explore this thing. I'm not saying that let us join it. I'm not saying let us participate in it. I'm not saying that. But should we not explore it so that when it comes to a point where central banks in various parts of the world have decided to provide oversight and regulation for this, then we're fully knowledgeable about it. We're fully informed about it, and this is what it is. And so this is some of the things I believe that we have to do. I've met many young people in this country, Dominican citizens who are resident here in Dominica and overseas, who are involved. There are many Dominicans who are involved in cryptocurrency arrangements. Many Caribbean people are involved in it in various levels and various forms. And I'm not saying that tomorrow morning let us sign an agreement and let us start as a country involved in it. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that we need to inform ourselves about these things, educate ourselves about these things. What are the opportunities? What are the downsides of these things? What are the upsides of those things? So that we have education. We have information about these things, and this is what we say. There's nothing at all. I mean, there's no regret or disappointment or anything like this. We signed an MOU. That was it. What somebody is involved in, whether in their past years or future years, has no bearing on us. The Dominicans who go to the United States have received green cards and they get deported back to Dominica because they found themselves in difficulties with the law. I mean, do you blame the green card system of America or the citizenship process in America, or do you blame us? No. I mean, everybody must turn on his own 2 feet in respect to whatever questions whoever has to answer from any entity anywhere in the world, Dominica included, and so forth. But that's what it is. We're not questioning what the SEC has done on the basis of that's matter for them and Mr. Ambassador Son to deal with. That's nothing to do with us and so on. So that's a matter for the SEC and for them to determine what the issues are and so on. But all I know is that normally when the SEC put the strategy before it is not criminal charge. It's not criminal charge. It's an infraction of their standards and their regulations, and they may impose a financial charge on you. You don't have to plead guilty or it doesn't determine your guilt or innocence or whatever. There are many banks in America Wells Fargo and Bank of America have been fined by the SEC for regulations that they have violated or they're not adhered to. These things happen almost on a daily basis. So we're making a big hoopla about this thing in Dominica that doesn't determine the price of sugar on the shelves in Dominica. That really doesn't make sense to me.
Because I read the owners, what they not the opposition, the United Workers Party leaders say they should stop.
Which one is that? Which leader is that?
I'm talking about Thomson.
Thomson.
Okay. He having a background in finance, saying that we should cut that time.
Well, I mean, I don't think anybody should rely on what Dr. Fontaine says on anything as a basis of reference. So I will not react to that at all. I won't react to that.
The Global View on Q, the big station. Insights into where the people of Dominica and the Caribbean came from, understanding our past, embracing our present, charting the way forward into our future. Together, eliminating poverty, embracing justice, peace, and togetherness. The Global View on Q, networking Dominica with the rest of the world. The experts are in the house from Dominica, Canada, the Caribbean, the United States, Europe, Asia, and the rest of the world, engaging all Dominicans at home and abroad on our agriculture, our economy, our foreign relations, our justice system, our governance, our international competitiveness, our education, our world-class festivals and entertainment, sports, politics, regional cooperation, and much more. Globally positioning Dominica within the Caribbean. Join the conversation on the Global View on Q. Tune in, call us, have your say. The Global View on Q, only on Q95, the big station.
I'm actually looking forward to having Thomson Fontaine perform the role of political leader of the UWP. As someone who has lived abroad for many years, I believe he will be a little wider and broader in his focus. These are the reasons why, whether or not the United Workers Party is represented in Parliament, I shall make an attempt to engage the new leadership of that party in my capacity as Prime Minister.
Good evening. Hello, everybody. Good evening and a very, very warm welcome to you in Radio Land and in the internet world at home and abroad. Thank you for choosing Q95 tonight. This is the Global View on Q. Very warm welcome to all of you and the Q family listeners at home and abroad and globally. I'm Sheridan Gregoire, Mr. G. It's Tuesday, March 28th, 2023, the 13th Tuesday of 2023. And it's just about 8:08 p.m. in the studios at Q95, the big station. We're live on Facebook and on YouTube. Follow us at Q95 FM Radio. Our website is www.q95da.com. Please share the live, like our pages, get the latest breaking news and reviews as it happens, when it happens, only on Q95, the big station. We are continuing to revive the spirit of graciousness, of love, peace, prosperity, and unity among our Kalinago and Afro-Caribbean brothers and sisters. Tonight, I speak in a one-on-one exclusive with former IMF financial economist, Dr. Thomson Fontaine, and now leader of the United Workers Party, UWP. And I will put some questions to him like, how and what are Dominicans benefiting from a deal entered into by the leader of the DLP regime in office with a potential fraudster to sell Dominica crypto coins, also known as Dominica Fan tokens, that appear to offer a path that may allow buyers to own Dominica digital IDs and potentially Dominica e-passports. So here are a few talking points and questions that hopefully will guide some of what we're discussing here tonight with Dr. Fontaine. So Korean, I think the gentleman is Korean Justin's son, the owner of Tron, appears to offer a path to permit buyers to own Dominican digital passports towards getting an e-passport. We heard so much about e-passports lately. We wonder what is the connection between the two. Justin's son, who has been given the sole rights by DLP regime leader Roosevelt Skerritt to promote a Dominican crypto coin, is now facing fraud charges being brought by the United States. The Chinese government, as we know, has reportedly banned all cryptocurrencies in its country due to concerns over potential fraud and money laundering, and is said to have designated participating in these cryptocurrencies as financial crimes. Is this Dominica coin simply another path to fast track and obtain a Dominican digital ID to get a Dominican e-passport? Is that what it's all about? Are we heeding the ECCB's concerns over the absence of regulations of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, and its advice against trading and investing in these unregulated currencies? How will the proceeds of Dominica's digital IDs be invested, and by whom? What are Dominicans benefiting from this deal with Mr. Sun? Who is benefiting? Why are Dominicans not being told about the details of these deals with international fraudsters before they take place? Dominicans have been burnt by deals with crooked ambassadors in the past. Some have been sent to jail, others are avoiding extradition. Is the digital wallet of Mr. Sun's platform allowing free transfers of questionable money? Will all this place Dominic under the microscope of the US Security Exchange Commission? What are the inherent dangers of the cover provided by cryptocurrency for crooks and criminals to conduct transactions incognito? Did Mr. Sun truly pay a very prominent, very important Wall Street investor $4.6 million for a lunch appointment? I'm sure Dr. Thomson Fontaine will help us answer some of those questions. He's a man who is well read, very learned. You did hear Mr. Skerritt say a moment ago he was looking forward to having Mr. Thomson Fontaine as the leader of the opposition, because he had a very global view. He had a very broad view of things. But a minute before that, he said he didn't think that Mr. Thomson Fontaine had anything that he could say to anyone, which is correct. We'll find out tonight. Is anyone in Dominica personally receiving any proceeds of whatever transactions from Mr. Sun that Mr. Sun is conducting on this platform? Is anyone in Dominica receiving money, proceeds from these transactions? Why are the people of Dominica not being consulted before the DLP political directorate embarks on these murky deals? What has become of the people's democracy and the right to know what is happening in their country? Are we going to allow all and sundry to come from anywhere and simply milk us all of what we are worth? When will we put a stop to that? Are we now seeing the stark need for all opposition forces to unify and bring massive peaceful gatherings under one umbrella to demand electoral and campaign finance reforms so as to get free and fair elections and proceed to secure good, capable governance that steers Dominica well away from Ponzi schemes like these, giving ambassadorial positions to crooks and criminals, poor unapproved housing and other construction from foreign contractors, to stop giving away jobs to foreigners while Dominicans languish? Oh, please, yes, and place foreign entrepreneurs in the shops in Roseau, while Dominican small business people are under tents mounted over gutters in their own city, and much more than that. And the opposition forces jointly raise massive amounts of money to mobilize massive support for electoral and campaign finance reforms and for free and fair elections to secure our democracy. So I put those questions on the table. I know there are many other issues that Dr. Fontaine will be dealing with, but I put them not just for Dr. Fontaine, but for you, our audience, our listeners on Facebook and on YouTube and in Radio Land, for you to consider, so that when you call and formulate your questions, you can keep some of those things in mind, because you're looking for answers to those questions, just like I am. So meantime, we are continuing to witness the rise and fall of Dominica's democracy. Is Dominica walking towards a precipice? The Dominicans heeding all the signs of the destruction of their nation. So meantime, we are continuing to... Are Dominicans reading the writing on the wall. I remind you again that only Dominicans can save themselves and their democracy. But are they ready and willing to do so now? My very distinguished guest tonight, former IMF financial economist, Dr. Thomson Fontaine, is eminently qualified to bring clarity to what Dominicans have apparently unknowingly been dragged into by the powers that be. Now we must all look forward to embracing a dynamic drive to protect our democracy and to avoid these pitfalls. The question remains, will it require, and that question still remains, will it require mass peaceful gatherings of Dominicans to press their demand for transparency, accountability, integrity, and true democracy? Only time will tell. So please stay tuned tonight on the Q Radio, Facebook, and YouTube. Call us. Have your say as you do every Tuesday with me, Mr. G, on the Global View on Q. So tonight, the Global View is continuing to prepare to embrace Dominica's 45th anniversary of independence, this November 2023. That date is supposed to mean something to us. And we look forward to free and fair elections to preserve this democracy of ours. So wherever you are in Dominica, in the region, and globally, tell your friends and associates, tune in, call in, join the conversation, get the answers to your questions. Be part of the solution. Have your say as you do every Tuesday. So as usual, a huge shout out, hugs, much love, appreciation, and a big thank you to our healthcare providers, frontline workers, police and fire officers, teachers, doctors, nurses, and other public, private sector persons. Happy to have you all with us tonight. We welcome every Dominican and friend of Dominica. We embrace you wherever you are tonight, in every nook and cranny, in every village, every community throughout Dominica, in the region, and globally. Let me just say thank you, Sherwin, keeping us on the air. Thank you, Lambi, on the console, Q95 tonight, directing the traffic. We will take your calls very, very soon in the show, because I think after the first half hour, we'll start taking your calls, because it's important for us to hear from you. We're going to hear from Dr. Thomson Fontaine first, and then we really want your calls to come in, because this issue is very important. It has many implications for Dominica and for every Dominican at home and abroad. So the People's Voice is taking priority tonight, so let's get started. I go first to Dr. Well, I have to say former IMF financial economist, UWP leader, Dr. Thomson Fontaine, to get the ball rolling tonight. But first, if you don't mind, Dr. Fontaine, would you please tell us something about your own qualifications and experience that make you so eminently qualified to speak on these economic and financial issues? And what has shaped your local, national, and world view, your world vision for the best way forward for Dominica? How you would get the people out of the dilemma of a never-ending cycle of poverty and, in some cases, mendicancy that we're currently witnessing. So, Dr. Thomson Fontaine, I yield to you now.
Mr. G, thank you very much. It's good to be here with you tonight. And of course, Lambi, very good evening to you. And to the many listeners on Facebook, already started to interact with people on Facebook and social media. And to those at home that are listening, I know a number of persons have been looking forward to this. And as I said before, this is a matter of tremendous interest to us. But just to give you a little background, because it's not something I do a lot, but I suspect Dominicans like the idea because they keep talking about certain doctor. And so I think they like the idea of this doctor thing. So, just to say what qualifies me, and I think, is the fact that my PhD, my research was in financial and international economics. And I particularly focused on currency issues. So looking at the way currencies evolve, develop over time. But more importantly, as a graduate student at Clemson University, I was awarded the Hugh Macaulay Award for outstanding graduate work in economics. And this is an award given to the top student in that particular year. So obviously I had to outdo rather, the Chinese, the Indians, or the West Indians, the Americans, and so on to get that award. The important thing about this award is that it really sets you apart in your field. So, for example, the gentleman who won 2 years before me went on to become a lecturer at Harvard University. He was hired after he got this award, a lecturer at Harvard University. The one who came in the year before me is now the head of one of the major generating firms in Mexico City. And my year, when I won, I went to the IMF as an economist. And after I left that, I taught for 2 years at the University of Maryland, where I taught graduate students on just those issues. That was the curriculum, basically, talking about financial issues, talking about how the stock market operates, how this new, and at the time 2012, 2013, we were just starting to talk about this new type of currency, because Bitcoin had come on the scene in 2009 and had taken the whole world by storm. There's a lot of discussion as to how it started, who was behind it. Up to now, no one knows whether it's an individual or a group of individuals who started Bitcoin, but just the idea of that time. So I think that and obviously I've had keen interest as an investor as well, looking at investments in the stock markets and looking at different types of assets, a keen interest in cryptocurrency. And that's why I smiled when I heard the Prime Minister say, well, we should look at it in Dominica because it will create jobs for our people, our young people. We are concerned about them. Yeah, but the way you make money in the crypto market currency is by being an investor, right? You have to have the money to invest. And the average young person in Dominica, sadly, does not have the resources. They don't even have a job to start with because his government has failed them so miserably. So the idea that somehow our young people can benefit from this phenomena, this global phenomena, as the Prime Minister rightly said, is a joke, really, and because like I said, the way you make money is free. But we'll talk a little bit more about that in terms of the way you make money. But before we do, Mr. G, I think, as I go along, and I think it's important to define some terms, because I know it's not an easy topic. Even for those of us that has done this thing for many years, I mean, it's been how many years now since I've had my degree? Over almost 25 years now. I've been working in this area, and even for me, sometimes it takes some time because it keeps changing and so on. But the important and fundamental difference between the cryptocurrencies that we're talking about and our money, our regular money, we use monies for transactions and so on. We use money to buy things, to buy services, to buy goods, to buy assets. So you can use money, for example, to go on the stock market and buy stocks. You can use money to go on the foreign exchange market and purchase currencies. You can go into the market for securities or for currencies and make money that way. You can also use your money and go to this new evolving cryptocurrencies. Now, what exactly is a cryptocurrency? The cryptocurrency is really something that is out there in the universe. It's an asset. It's an artificial asset that has been created, okay, and that allows people to use that asset with some of the functions of money. So one of the key functions of money is as a medium of exchange. Okay, so if you, for example, Mr. if I'm paying you for a service, okay, you offer a service to me, like you allow me the use of your station, for example, I have to pay you in cash. Okay, I'm using money now as a medium of exchange, so that you agree that you will receive money for me in exchange for a service of using your radio station. Okay, now the cryptocurrency plays the same role. Persons who have cryptocurrencies can use this cryptocurrency to give to somebody else to exchange for a good or for a service. The critical difference between the cryptocurrency and the money that we use is that the monies that we use, they are regulated. It is part of a centralized system. Cryptocurrencies are decentralized, and that is where it gets very important. And the decentralized system, it uses is called cryptography. Now, why is that important? Cryptography is critical because it is on the internet. And what cryptography does is that it takes your simple input into the computer. It takes that and it changes the form. There are a series of what we call algorithms and different forms that it takes, so that only you, the sender, and the intended receiver knows what you are sending or what you are saying. So it means that no matter how the authorities would like to take a peek into your transactions, they will not know, they cannot tell. So if, for example, I decide to make an exchange with you, I decide to send you, like I have Bitcoin, I decide to send that to you. That is only a transaction between me and yourself. Nobody else knows. Nobody else can see it. It is decentralized, but also it is hidden. And that is what makes cryptocurrencies dangerous. Because not only is it decentralized, it is hidden. Authorities have no control. You don't know who is behind any given transaction. And that's where the problem is. So what we have seen is that individuals have made use of this for committing financial crime. So they can move huge sums of monies that way. You can convert your cash into some cryptocurrency and then move that to somebody else. So for example, if I want to move money to Lambi, okay, to Lambi, but Lambi receiving that money might raise eyebrows if it's coming from me. Then what I do, I go to you, Mr. G, I buy Bitcoin or some other currency from you. So that transaction is recorded, but we have a business relationship. So that does not raise any interest. You're an upstanding businessman, you're a good person, you're not a criminal. But Lambi is a criminal, right? Lambi is a person that I really want to pay to do a job for me. I get this cryptocurrency from you, I purchase, so you have my money. That's a clean transaction, okay? It is above board. You know, I could say, well, I'm paying you for a service, I'm paying you for the use of your station, I'm paying you for shares in your, you know, I can come up with some good excuse why you're getting the money, and then that is fine. But now I then transfer this cryptocurrency to Lambi. Only me and Lambi knows that. Nobody else sees that transaction. In the first case with the transaction, it is well documented, the bank has to report it to the authorities. It is known. But that secondary transaction that I make dealing in cryptocurrency to Lambi is that nobody knows it. So later on, Lambi can then turn that cryptocurrency into cash. But nobody knows where he got the cryptocurrency from in the first place. No one knows that it was a transfer from me to him, because that transaction is only known to Lambi and myself. Okay, so it is for that reason that the Chinese government said in 2021, September of 2021, that they said that cryptocurrency was posing a threat to their financial system. And secondly, it gave rise to financial crimes. Okay, and that's one of those I described to you. Basically, money laundering. That's a clean way to launder money. Okay, you can change ownership without anybody knowing, and that's a key function of laundering. So it looks like Lambi is now spreading this money. You might think it's his money, but it came from a drug dealer giving it to him, right? So that is where the problem is. So because of those reasons, they completely banned the use of cryptocurrencies in China. In other countries, the governments are frowning upon it. We heard within Dominica itself, the head of the bank, the East Caribbean Central Bank, the governor, he indicated very clearly that he warned, he was very public about it. He warned the populations of the Caribbean not to go down the road of cryptocurrencies. He warned about the danger. He warned about the fact that this encourages financial crimes, that a lot of it could be proceeds from crimes, and just the way it is done, what I just described, it makes it something that you need to keep your hands off.
Well, as a matter of fact, he was very clear that this currency was unregulated, and he discouraged people from investing in that currency.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's the fundamental thing. So the authorities do not have control over it. So it's a really dark area, and it operates in a dark part of the metaverse. And you hear words like metaverse, because it's that dark part of the web, that you have those transactions and you have those dealings, and so it's a very dangerous area to actually tread in or to actually enter. And that's the reason why a number of countries have reservations about it. It's not encouraged. In the United States, for example, while it is true that some banks do it, um, a lot of people, for example, invest in Bitcoins. You have certain areas now you can actually go to an ATM and withdraw Bitcoin. You have that, but it's not something that is actively encouraged by the authorities for the very simple reason they said it can be used for crime. It has been used for crime. There was it came to prominence, in fact, a few years ago through a website called Silk Road. And Silk Road was a website that allowed individuals to want to get, for example, before Silk Road came along, if a person wanted to hire a hitman to commit a crime, they would then go out. They would then go out and talk to somebody, get a friend, talk to somebody, get somebody to do the crime, to do some crime for them. But now with Silk Road, they could sit behind the comfort of their computers. They will use Bitcoin or some other currency, cryptocurrency, to pay that hit person. So the hitman does not know who this person is asking for the hit. So even if they're caught, that person may never be known, because that transaction that was done through this metaverse using this cryptography completely obliterates that person making the deal. And so it was very lucrative, okay, because people know that they could not be caught. All right, it reduced their chances of being caught because there is no record, really. It's only the person receiving the order who knows, might not even know who the person is, because I can go in, for example, I want to do something, I can go in under a different name. I can say that my name is Jack Jackson from St. Lucia or from elsewhere. Okay, so it is very easy to disguise. So people were hiring hitmen, they were purchasing drugs, they were all of those illegal activities, which traditionally are difficult to do, suddenly became very easy because people could operate in complete anonymity. They would not be known. And so it's for those reasons why governments are saying, no, let's take a closer look at this. Let us not be encouraging this type of activities. Now, let's talk about the monies to be made from it. And that is the argument we'll hear people say. Even today, after I was on Matt's in the hot seat, I received a few persons who say, but I'm invested in these cryptocurrencies. It is not illegal to be invested in those currencies. What people have to understand is that, like every investment, there is a downside to it. There is a risk to it. So outside of the fact that the way it is used for the average person trying to make money, because the price, that itself is an asset. Bitcoin is an asset. The one that Sun owned called Tron is also an asset. Okay, so and prices of assets are bid up or down. So the way you make money off of it is by bidding that it will either rise or fall. Okay, so if you believe that the price of Bitcoin will continue to rise, then you buy some of Bitcoin now, and you wait until it rises to sell to make money. Okay, so people have made money that way, but by the same token, people have lost a lot of money. And one of the crimes that Justin Sun is charged with is fraud, because what he was able to do successfully is to artificially increase the price of his own currency, right? Normally, the price of the currency is determined by supply and demand. The more people demand it, is the higher the price goes, right? So he set up two separate companies that were engaged in simultaneously buying and selling of his own currency. So other investors looking on that, looking at the price or the published price of Tron, realizing that the price is either stable or rising, they say, "But that's a good thing to invest in." And so they put their money into it, not realizing that the price that they're actually seeing is artificial. It is manipulated, something that is clearly against the law, clearly against securities trading.
So clearly, I mean, this is not the first time this has happened. I mean, remember some time ago, I remember on the stock market, I think it was, or somebody was trading. It may have been Bitcoin, and in one day they lost billions.
Yes.
Yes, because somebody went in there and artificially changed the prices and just started bidding and bidding and bidding. And then they went and came back and bought and bought and bought. They sold and sold and sold. And then they came back and bought and bought and bought. And so
Yes.
this also would have a tendency. I mean, I'm sure some of these governments are concerned about the potential to destabilize the currencies. The
Yeah,
US,
absolutely.
the Chinese. Yeah,
Absolutely. No, in fact, that's what the Chinese said. The Chinese said it has the potential to destabilize their own Chinese currency. Okay, because you had millions of investors within China who have some of them have a lot of money and who were willing to go that way to make even more money. But they're saying that the fact that they would be using Chinese currency to purchase initial, because there must be an initial purchase. Initially, you must use regular money to get to the cryptocurrency. Nobody gets up and goes, unless of course, if you decide that you want to get paid in cryptocurrency, you do a job for somebody and they pay you in cryptocurrency, then you start with that and you can then reinvest it. But for the most part, individuals begin with regular cash that they buy into it.
Thomson, let's talk about this man's son. Let's talk a little bit about who he really is. Where did he get started? What is his history in China? Obviously, the Chinese government took some actions against him. I don't know whether they charge him for fraud yet. We know that the Securities Exchange Commission has, in fact, I believe, brought charges against him for fraud. And I'm not. We need to clarify to our audience, because we have a lot of people who are with us on the radio, on Facebook, and YouTube, and so on. Not everybody understands these things as well as you do. And it's a good opportunity for you to explain it to all of us so that we can all have a better appreciation. So when our government, for example, goes to bed with a gentleman like that, you wonder, why is it that no due diligence was done so they could have found out that this man was a crook?
Yes, indeed.
And in fact, is the opposite the case, where in fact maybe they did the due diligence and they found that he was, and maybe he was a suitable person to work with?
To do business with. Yeah. No, one of the things you'll find that will strike you right off about this gentleman is that he's quite young. He's just 32 years old. He's actually Chinese. He was born in China, studied both in China and the United States. He did graduate school in the United States, but he actually did. Importantly, he researched that market whilst just when it was starting. In fact, he graduated just in 2018, so it's just a few years ago. But he's been able to start, because in 2013, 14, up to 2021, effectively, the Chinese market was the hottest for cryptocurrencies. Okay, because China, as you know, over the past 2 decades, China has become tremendously wealthy.
Right.
China was creating millionaires by the day. Every day you have millionaires being minted in China. Right. So there was just a tremendous amount of cash available to the Chinese. So they were speculating. They were, the cryptocurrency thing was good. They put, and a lot of the initial bidding up of the price of Bitcoin came because of the demand from China. So you have all of those Chinese who were invested in cryptocurrencies bidding up the prices. So he saw an opportunity and he started this company, Huobi, Huobi, in China. Now, when the Chinese government began to take a closer look at those companies, he was under investigation. He was in China at the time, but then he was able to leave right before the Chinese government cracked down on those companies. So he was able to leave China and went to the United States and did his graduate degree there and then started working in cryptocurrencies. But he had already started to accumulate some wealth from that, because as I said, China was the hot market for cryptocurrencies. So he was able to leverage that money into developing Tron and so on. So now he's considered to be a mogul. He's considered to be one of these persons that have done really, really well for himself in that space. Okay, but then where he became very prominent, where the American public first began to take notice of him as an individual, was when Warren Buffett, who is the most well-known investor in the US stock market, a man who has made the most money out of the US stock market, and he's already coveted, everybody wants to meet him and so on. And there was a charity that he was working with that had a kind of an auction to raise money for the charity. They auctioned a dinner with Warren Buffett. So that's the price. The price is you will bid on an auction. You will bid during an auction for a chance to have dinner with the most well-known and respected investor on Wall Street. So he ended up winning the bid with $4.6 million to have dinner, just a dinner with him. So that's when people first took notice. Well, who is this guy? But already he was already making money. He was already, he had already started to trade his Tron, and which will come to, and we'll see the connection to that Tron and Dominica in a while. And he obviously caught the attention of our own Prime Minister, who thought, well, this may be a guy to do business with. I'm not sure who sought out who, but the fact of the matter is, at some point in time, the Prime Minister, when he should be looking to create jobs in Dominica and working in the best interest of the Dominican public, was probably out there, and probably somebody introduced them to him. But the fact of the matter is, they eventually came together, and he decided, or they agreed, that they were going to do something novel. That they were not just going to have Tron at the level of a company, of this company, but they were going to make Tron like a currency for Dominica. So that the Prime Minister said, well, Tron will now be traded. You can use it for legal tender in Dominica, which means you can buy and sell with Tron currency. The first and only country to do that, to allow a cryptocurrency where legitimate governments across the world have problems with those cryptocurrencies, but our government decides that they want to make cryptocurrency the basis of our system in Dominica. So when this individual son, who became extremely wealthy, we talked about his problems he's having now, and you can be certain that he's been investigated by the FBI for criminal charges. Okay, so the Securities and Exchange Commission that regulates the US stock market cannot bring criminal charges. Okay, it has to be brought by law enforcement, and most likely he's been investigated for that. But the fact of the matter is, when we were introduced to Son in Dominica in October of last year, October of 2022, we were introduced to Son by the Prime Minister, indicating, and there were pictures of him on the internet. There was a story in DNO, it was carried in the Sun newspaper and so on, to indicate that this company that is owned by Son was going to produce a Dominica token, not a Dominica currency, a Dominica token. That is completely different. A token is something that you purchase, okay? You purchase the token, and then it gives you certain benefits, yeah? So for example, of most of the Premier League teams, you can go online and buy a token for Liverpool or Tottenham or so on, those football teams. And then it's like a fan club, okay? So you have a fan club, and the way you contribute to the team is to pay for this token, and you become a member of the fan club. So they send you emails, you interact with the team members and so on, you know? So when I first heard it, I advertised as a token. That's what I thought it was similar to the tokens you have for the, because that's what it was promoted as a Dominica token. Nothing about passports, nothing about citizenship.
You know, Thomson, before we go into the passports and the citizenships and the ID, let me just read it, because you know we have to acknowledge, and you're very good at interacting with the people on the Facebook, and I know several of them have come on. More people are joining all the time, and we welcome them. And I'm sure we'll take one or two of their comments in a minute. But here is something somebody that I'm getting messages on WhatsApp as well. This conversation is really interesting. Somebody says the basic point here is simple. Bitcoin or crypto is rat poison. Crypto has very little regulation, and which makes it have very little transparency. The only people who would want to do business with it are people who don't want to be seen or do not want transparency. Dominica has been blacklisted for many years. Why would we not try to improve this? It is clear to see that this government wants to hide or has something to hide. Here's another one. Crypto has lost more wealth in the last 5 years than any other currency. The question is, why would a country that has no or very little money want to invest in this riskiest investment? It shows that we do not have someone smart at the wheel. Thomson,
No, in fact, these persons interacting on social media are correct. It shows a basic lack of understanding. And I listened very closely to the Prime Minister, and with all due respect, I was shocked, because he was saying, hey, it's a new phenomena, we should be excited, it's hitting the globe, let's be a part of it. You know, not understanding the inherent dangers, not understanding the secrecy behind it, not understanding the deliberate way in which cryptocurrencies are set up, not understanding that cryptocurrencies can pose a threat to your financial system, you know, especially in countries where you have control. So, for example, in China, you can't just export. Each citizen is allowed a maximum of 50,000 a year to move out. Okay, that's the maximum that they're allowed to get out of the country every year. Now, if you're able to do that trading freely, it goes against those controls. So the country could run out of foreign currency quite easily, because enough people are trading, enough people are demanding US dollars to go online and begin to purchase those currencies. So there's an inherent danger. And this idea that the Prime Minister, and I heard him say, you know, well, yeah, I've been reading about it and people have been telling me about it and so on. Well, I'll tell you what, Mr. Summers, I've spoken to this guy and realized, hey, I can use, that is somebody I can use, because this is obviously a brilliant young man. He uses brilliance, of course, not in the wisest of ways. But it is clear that he's maybe taking advantage of the Prime Minister because he's so naive, you know, and also just the controls. How do you control this? How do you, you know, for example, will people come back later on and sue the government of Dominica if, in addition to getting a passport, they invest in Tron and they lose their investments in that? Will they now blame it on the Dominica government? Will we be subject to lawsuits? All of those are unanswered questions. We are really in uncharted territory.
Very uncharted territory.
In uncharted territory, and that to me is where the problem is.
Here's one of the things. I'm in a minute. I'm going to ask Lambi to open the line, so some of the folks want to make a quick open. You know, so early calls they can do so. I know some people want to call in. They told me so. But you know, Thomson, before we actually go into what this man's son is charged with, we'll come to that in a while. But I mean, let us speculate a little bit. We know we have a history of doing certain things in a certain way. We claim that we've been doing due diligence. So maybe we did due diligence on this man and we found our man. The question is, we have this history of appointing ambassadors with funny track records. Several of them end up in jail. Some of them are now trying to avoid being extradited to the country to face charges. The point is this man, he's so smart, Thomson, that he has several passports from several different countries. Can you think of any reason why he wouldn't want to just take one from Dominica?
Yeah, no, absolutely not. And if I were a betting man, I would bet that he does own a passport from Dominica. Especially Dominica was going to be his ticket to untold millions. I mean, bear in mind what we have there is a gentleman that is prepared to use Dominica with the permission of the Prime Minister to make untold millions of dollars. So the fact that he has a passport from St. Kitts, he has from Malta, he has, in fact, the Malta story is an interesting one because with Malta, you have to put a certain level of investment to get your residency card. So what they actually did is that he opened a company in Malta, applied for his residency card. As soon as he got the residency card, he shut down the business and moved on. So he has Malta citizenship, St. Kitts and Nevis citizenship, Grenada citizenship, Guinea-Bissau, that he told regulators that he has a passport from. He's not mentioned publicly that he has a Dominica passport, but given him that just recent. He's been doing business recently with Dominica. The announcement was made in October of last year. So it's just over the last few months. There's a very good likelihood that he has a Dominica passport. And I'm sure at the back of his mind, the hope is that when the heat is turned up, as it will, because those tendencies that we've talked about, these borders on criminal behavior, he is most likely going to want to use one of those passports to escape the long arm of the law.
Yeah. I'm trying to read one or two questions on Facebook, Thomson. Your eyes are much better than mine. Bernard Allen is asking a question. He's saying, good night all. Dr. Fontaine, in light of the announcement, which was made by Mr. Roosevelt Skerritt some years ago, back Ray Dominica's partnership with this individual or group with an intention to make Dominica's economy the first crypto economy in the world. And let us see what else he says here. And the promise made by him to provide each Dominican with a few hundreds or thousands of Bitcoins so as to start the cryptocurrency, the crypto economy. Do you believe that Dominica's government has invested large amount of taxpayers' money to start all of this system? And if so, what could be the implication of the decision?
Well, that's an excellent question. We have been trying to trace down the missing billions. That has been uncontested. You recall Honorable Lennox Linton raising those issues in Parliament about the missing billions of dollars from the sale of passports. So now one can begin to think that it is quite likely that a lot of that money found its way into those markets, clearly speculative markets, and most likely this money is maybe at least some of it, maybe moving in that space, in the metaverse 3.0, as Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerritt would say. All right, so he knows about the metaverse. It is quite likely, and the idea that every Dominican will be given, again, is empty promises. Is there one Dominican that we know, other than probably the Prime Minister and those close around him, who have benefited from those transactions? Is there one Dominican that can put their hand up and say, yes, I have benefited. Here is my bank account. Here is what I have gained. Here is the amount of money I've made. Here is the job that I now have as a result of this. I don't think so. So yeah, this idea that you would be the first country, and why, something is not right. I mean, so many things. If you want to emulate, if you want to mimic success, there are so many good success stories of countries that have built their economies through hard work, that have created job opportunities. Why not follow those examples? Why foolishly take the lead into an area that you do not understand, that you do not have an appreciation for, that you can be taken for a ride, as it appears that you have been in this case? You know, it is clear that the Prime Minister is completely out of his depth in this. And not only that, what bothers me even more is the aspect of criminality and the idea he's trying to distance himself, say, well, you know, whatever son do, if I go to England, does that impact it? You know, all of this to confuse people's minds. That is different. You've made a relationship. You've gone into a contract, which, by the way, we need to see that contract to get an idea as to who benefits, how are the benefits to Dominica going to accrue. We need to see that contract
and whether
that you entered with Sun.
And whether Dominica has actually invested.
And whether Dominica has actually invested, you know, and
part of that contract.
The fact that we can even be discussing this, Mr. G, is so worrisome to me, especially as the leader of the United Workers' Party. It is so bothersome to me that we are talking about the possible use of Dominica dollars that is outside of the Treasury. Everything should be going through our consolidated fund. Expenses, receipts should be coming through so that we'll be able to trace those transactions. Now, here we are speculating because of the roguish behavior of this government that is prepared to do their own thing without informing the Dominican public and using the name of Dominica. He is doing it in the name of Dominica. So when Son boasts about Dominica on his website, that Dominica is the most beautiful island, you can get a taste of paradise. All of us, that's us. That's our heritage. That's what we have.
True. Thomson, I'm going to ask Lambi to give out the numbers so we can take some calls. On the other side of that, I'm going to ask you to talk to us about what this gentleman, Mr. Sun, has been charged with, and to also explain to our listeners the relationship between Dominica's citizenship program, the CDI, and the Chinese ban on the cryptocurrencies. There's several other questions that we'll put on the table to you, but I know that you're eminently qualified to answer them, so I'm not afraid to ask you those questions. Lambi, let me go over to you. Give the folks the numbers, and we can take a few calls, so, you know, as we go along.
Good evening. You are listening or viewing the Global Viewing Queue. The numbers to connect with us are as follow: 449-3095, 449-3096, 449-3097, 616-4257. The international connecting number is 305-432-9624. Let me run those numbers one more time. 449-3095, 449-3096, 449-3097, 616-4257, and the international number that's 305-432-9624. Let me run that last number one more time. International connecting number is 305-432-9624, and we're standing by for your calls. Back to you, Mr. G.
Yes, just before I go back to the questions, Thomson and Lambi, just if you have a call, just raise your hands. You want to take one now? Let's take it before I go.
Yes. Good evening, caller. Thanks for joining us. Go ahead, please.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
I am assuming that there are some relevant questions to be answered by government in that regard. But who and what is going to get Mr. Skerrit as Prime Minister, Minister of Finance, to answer those relevant questions that need to be asked? Who is going to get him to answer? And what is really going to force him to answer to those questions? Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks a lot for that. Lambi, just raise your hand and, make me a sign and I'll take the call. So let me just read something somebody wrote, Thomson, and maybe you might want to, respond to that if you think it's necessary. The question is, Is it coincidence that everyone our prime minister does business with is a shady character? What's wrong with us keeping this fraudster at the helm of our government? That is just a question somebody's asking. I'm not sure whether that is something that you need to answer. But I mean, if you think that if you feel like you could do that, if you think you can. But here's, I really wanted us, because we want to beat the time, because we have quite a few things that we want to explain to our listeners here. Really, what is this man charged with? Because, it's important for us to know that, because we're in bed with this man. Our prime minister told us that he contracted with this man. We don't know whether Dominica invested heavily in this thing. We know there's supposed to be a $4.2 billion out there somewhere. Is that making the rounds in this thing they're told? Do we know anything about that? And so what is this man charged with? And then the question of the relationship between Dominica's CBI program, our citizenship program, and the Chinese ban on cryptocurrencies. Maybe you might be able to enlighten us on some of that, Dr. Fontaine. You're muted. You might want to unmute your mic because we're not hearing you. And Lamb, you can cut in anytime that you have a call, okay?
Yes, sure.
Yeah.
I mean, let's start with what he's been charged with, okay? He's been charged with fraud by the SEC. And in fact, I read it's a 50-page complaint that was brought against him. It's on the internet. Anyone can go on there and see it. It's a 50-page complaint. And what they're saying, what they're accusing him of, is two things. That the first thing that he did is that he was trading in Tron, the same currency that he wants to be Dominica's currency, illegally in the United States. Secondly, he defrauded investors by artificially keeping the price of Tron up, and I will explain how that is done. And thirdly, he used celebrities. In fact, they charged those celebrities like Neo and Elizabeth Lohan and a few other persons, about 8 of them. The SEC charged them because what he was doing, that he was using those celebrities, he was paying them to go out on the social media and talk about how they have been invested in Tron, as if they had, but they had not. But they were talking as if, yeah, I just saw this exciting new deal. It's Tron, is doing really well, and I've invested in it and so on. Like they were promoting it on his behalf. And that the SEC went after them. Out of the 8 that were charged, 7 of them pleaded guilty, and they have actually paid fines. They were all fined for their role in this, and they were asked to give the money back that they got out of this. So only one person is taking it all the way to court. But the specific charge is that he was able to artificially keep his price, the price of his currency up. Now, you're expressly forbidden to use what we call insider information. As I said, his cryptocurrency is a commodity that can be traded, okay? It can be bought and sold. And in the process of being bought and sold, the price can go up or the price can go down. The more people that demand it, that buys it, is the higher the price goes. So what he was in fact doing is that he had 2 companies, and then he ordered his employees of those 2 companies to execute simultaneous trades. And the way it works is that as you are demanding something, like as you are buying, simultaneously a similar amount is being sold. So it keeps the price level. In other words, your shift in demand is, for those who did 101 economics, as your demand increases in one direction, supply goes in the other direction. So it keeps your currency stable. So it appears as if the currency is doing well, the price is not falling. And because of that, other investors got interested in it, and they will then put their money into it, and then the price will rise. And as the price rises, more investors will come in. So that's a clearly fraudulent behavior. And because of that, he was charged. That's the reason why he was charged.
And Dr. Thomson, when you think about it, in terms of the question that was raised by the person on Facebook, The question is this: we saw a CBI citizen, another one of our citizens. Remember this gentleman called Ali Reza Monfared?
All right. Mm-hmm.
Yes, I mean, you remember he was on high seas trading in oil, sanctioned,
Yes.
busting the US sanctions, and now he's sitting in a jail language in Iran.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it that we're really seeking out those shady characters? What is in it? What is in it for us? What is Dominica benefiting from that? And why is it that we cannot see what the Chinese government is seeing? Why they ban this guy and the cryptocurrencies from their country? Do you have an explanation for why are we blindfolding ourselves like that? Is it something somebody's getting? Is somebody getting something somewhere that makes it all worth their while?
Okay, let Lambi go through that question, and then I'll come back
Yes,
with a
let's see the
response.
question, Lambi.
Yeah.
Good evening, caller. Thanks for being there. Go ahead, please.
Good evening, Dominica.
Good evening.
I hear Skerrit saying this afternoon, and he trying to picture our leader, our future after God. He don't believe what he's saying. Yet is we owe the IMF $92 million US, and illegally we have a parliament, but illegally Skerrit seems like taking state funds and gambling Dominica money when if we want to create jobs and we want to create opportunity for our people. I feel the best thing we should have done is service our debt. The opposition leader, Sir Lennox Clinton, when he used to be in that position, was always emphasizing that that government should use some of that money to pay down on our debt. Today, we could have been in a better place where we could get more funds to create opportunities for Dominicans. And instead, he taking the money and he gambling it instead. What a shame. What a shame on Dominicans. Dominicans are the one doing that. They are the one blocking their own progress by supporting a man that is a fraud for Prime Minister. God bless Dominica. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Senator Fontaine, did you want to make a comment on this?
Yes, and to me that is the most heartbreaking thing in all of this. And you pose a question, and the caller also alluded to it. What is it? Why is he doing this? Why is the Prime Minister doing this? Because it is not translating into tangible development on the ground in Dominica. It is not translating into job creation in Dominica. It is not translating into the young people getting a better living standard in Dominica. None of that is sin. Why is he doing that? And I think a lot of that is being driven by greed. I think a lot of it is being driven by greed. He has tasted the fruit of having excess, and it's all about himself as a prime minister. It's all about what he can get for himself. A man who builds 2, 3, 4 mansions in Dominica, it's obvious that there is that insatiable greed. The need cannot be filled.
You want to
so
take
you
a
have
call?
to keep going and keep going.
Thomson, let's take a quick call from Randy. I'll come right back to you.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Fontaine, Dr. Fontaine, and Lambi and Mr. G.
How are you doing?
You're not bad, not bad. I listened to Roosevelt Skerrit talk about the Bitcoins, and we need to try and get into the Bitcoin thing before everybody else gets into it, and we end up last in getting into it. I would like to ask Mr. Roosevelt Skerrit, why did he give our youth to smoke 2 or 3 marijuanas? I'm not going to the medical marijuana thing, because some years ago I heard Babylon say that by the next year they would make $1 billion on medical marijuana. That would do so much for Dominica. We having medical marijuana, a marijuana grow and get medical marijuana and sell it overseas. Why is he so hypocrite? Anyway, good evening.
No, that's an excellent point, and I appreciate.
It's an excellent point. It's an excellent point that it makes, and which raises a question in my mind as well, and we've seen it. The behavior of the Prime Minister towards his own people Let me go ahead. I want to come back with this point. I
Yeah.
remember.
All
Yes,
right.
let me get go ahead with the call.
Go ahead, Lambi. Take a call.
Good evening, caller. Go ahead, please.
Hello.
Go ahead.
Hi, good evening to the panel. Good evening, Mr. G, and good evening, Dr. Fontaine.
Good evening.
I have been listening, and good evening. I have been listening, and I heard the statement of the Prime Minister. What kind of baffles me is his nonchalant attitude towards what came out. It's like he just doesn't care. And then he made a statement. He said that, oh, that was an opportunity for the young people to invest and to. Which young people is he talking about? Because I don't think there's any young person in Dominica, maybe I'm wrong, especially, the local man on the ground invested, would even get an opportunity to invest in that. So my question to the Prime Minister is, which of the young people that has created opportunity for? I really don't understand this man. I really don't understand how is it that we as a people just allowing this man to do whatever he wants. He comes and he talks to people however he wants. 1 minute he's hot, 1 minute he's cold, and people still groveling at this man's feet. People still taking his word, taking him at his word of what he says. This is totally unbelievable to me. This man, time and time again, has proven that he cannot be trusted. He cannot be trusted with the things he says. He cannot be trusted with the things that he does. But yet still, he's still the leader of the country. This is what is totally baffling to me. I really do not understand it. And this whole thing with the Tron and the coins, it's like he just doesn't care. Like, when are we going to stand up and realize that Prime Minister Skerrit, let me be respectful, does not care. His wallet, his pocket, his bank account is getting full, and everybody else is like dog eat dog. I do not care what happened. When are we going to say enough is enough? Thank you, gentlemen, and have a good night.
Yeah, and thank you for that comment. On the other side of that investment coin, not only we're talking about the young people are certainly not able to invest. They don't have the money to invest. If we look at some of the other local investments that's coming in infrastructure, I mean, we have to extend our heartfelt, thing to the people of La Plaine and the other people who got these units, because I understand the people of La Plaine are very concerned about the condition of the construction that they got. They think it is subpar. They're concerned about a lot of difficulties in it and with the safety of the construction. And some people are raising the question, I don't know, but it's being said that these things were done without planning approval. So planning never got a chance to look at the plans to see exactly what is being done in the construction. And so the long and short of it, if what I'm hearing is correct, I understand they were supposed to have had a meeting this evening in La Plaine because people are concerned about some of those housing. I don't know whether the meeting came through. Maybe someone will call us and tell us whether in fact that meeting came through and really what was the outcome of it, because people seem to be concerned about the quality of the construction that is going into that. And besides that, if we're talking about investments, these people still have no titles. The properties are probably not even insured. What happens if the storm comes and it blows it away? What do they do? So Thomson, you see, as you on the other call and the other two callers are mentioning this thing about investments, you see on one side, in terms of that cryptocurrency, young people can't invest. And the other side, the funds that are coming from the CBI that we spoke of, and we'll go now to the relationship with CBI and the China thing. Mm-hmm. We're finding that the type of construction that is taking place in housing and so on, housing, hospitals and so on, some of it does not meet the international quality standards.
Yes, indeed, and I'm going to come back to that, but I wanted to react firstly to the callers, the two previous callers, and the caller talked about not investing in the ganja industry, and I think I've been looking at the behavior of the Prime Minister. I'm wondering why it is that he does not focus on things that can benefit the local Dominican, right? And that's a good question about the ganja. Why not place emphasis on the ganja industry that can create opportunities for our young people? We heard him boasting the other day about the millions of dollars going out to foreigners. Gloat happy that he's inviting St. Lucians, trainees, and others to come and drive Caterpillar and, pour concrete in Dominica at the expense of Dominicans who can do this work. And he's happy about it. So I'm wondering, what is that hatred that the Prime Minister holds against the young people of Dominica? Is it that he does not want anybody in Dominica to make any kind of money? We have seen how he stifled the public servants. Over all of those years, I've refused to pay any type of wage increase to the public servants when he's at billions of dollars. We've seen his inability to help the farmers of Dominica, his inability to help the young people. He's brought in foreign companies and foreigners at the expense of local Dominicans. So there is a pattern there that troubles me. And he's willing to give money to Hayden to do as he pleases. Hayden has now built 2 super high-rise buildings in the middle of Dubai. I'm hoping one day that we'll be able to investigate these buildings. Secondly, we are now hearing about the son gentleman that he's given Dominica's money and is making money off of Dominica. Now, here is where it gets really interesting, Mr. G, to your question. Here's where it gets really interesting. All along, this was nothing about a token. Nothing about a token. The token was simply a measure to get Chinese to get into the app. Because as a Chinese individual, and it is right there in the Wall Street Journal article, as a Chinese individual, when you come in to purchase a Dominica token, there are 3 steps. The first step, you purchase the token. The second step is that you do the digital ID. Okay, the Dominica digital ID. When you get into this step, it says, oops, you're a Chinese national. Because you're a Chinese national, we need to redirect you to the citizenship program of Dominica. Okay, so probably out of 1,000, 100 will go. 900 may decide no, they just wanted the token and say, oh yeah, I can get a citizenship. I can get access to 140 countries. And not only that, it allows me, importantly, to circumvent, to go around the restrictions that has been placed by the Chinese government. And that to me is the most dangerous thing. So that the Chinese citizen who has been told by his government that you are banned, you are not to trade in cryptocurrencies because it will put our currency in trouble. It will put our whole economy in danger. They have now found a way around it because now with a Dominica passport, they can now access these trading sites, these trading platforms.
Now, this
they
is
can
not
now access
new.
it
This is
with
not
their Dominica citizenship.
This is not a new pattern. I'll come back to the Monfrere thing and the busting the sanctions on the sea. But Lambi, you wanted to take a call?
Yes, caller, are you still there? Please go ahead.
Yes, I'm there. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Boots.
Yeah, this is a voice that I've been away from the telephone for a while. I've tried my best to stay away from it based on the experiences I had. But I am...
It's good to hear you.
I'm feeling guilty if I would sit there and allow a situation like that to go on without saying a word. Gentlemen, there is a say that I learned from very, very prominent persons that says health is wealth. And is no point having money and doesn't have your health in place. I have the experience. And one of the questions I have is the hospital in Dominica. How much money that the government is spending in the hospital? I'm referring to the nurses and doctors and the caretakers at the hospital. What is the government doing in terms of bettering their life standard and better payment to the work that they're doing to keep our health so that we can have wealth? one of my experiences is when I look at the ratio from patients to nurses to doctors. It is a task for any group to take care of the challenges that they have. And they're going through the financial pressures that we have in Dominica, each and every one of them, including the foreign people that come to Dominica to help us with our health. And in the government sector, which is like in the ministry, from what I learned when I used to listen to politics, I remember a man, they used to call him Coden. This man was Eugenia Charles' financial partner. And she tell you when she going out to do business, she don't leave him down. And he come back as a civil servant and report to the civil service as to whatever that transpired in the deal that they made. I am hearing now, this cryptocurrency matter is one of the things that we have on our agenda. And I don't understand how the civil service that never gets a raise, never gets an increment. If you go back from the police, the teachers, the nurses, there is never enough money to give them an increment in the rate of pay. And these kind of deals being made outside of these people, who is going to answer to us? What amount of Dominica money that is spent either in deposit or money that was in the agreement that we would get as return? How is this crypto business going to work? Or how are we going to get account for the monies that the Dominican people would have involved in that? Because they say each and every Dominican would have X amount of money that they could, X amount of cryptocurrency that they could get. But there is something that I learned, and I will always want to maintain it. The sweat of thy brow, thou shalt eat bread. And the people of Dominica, there's quite a bit of Dominicans that is sweating and struggling to eat bread. But they said that thou shalt not steal, kill, or destroy. Because why? When those things happen, there's a God above watching. And I believe God has been watching the people of Dominica, and he's saying now to us, enough is enough. I am going to make Roosevelt carry de parler. And that is what I am hearing happening. So I cannot stay quiet. I'm asking God to continue to stand on the side of the Dominican people. But you people, remember, God is not going to come down here and just fight your fight for you. He's going to give you the energy, and he's going to give you the time. And I believe God is on our side, and now is the time that the people have to get serious. The leader of the civil service, he needs to be able to call his members and tell them one of the reasons why we cannot receive any raises for all the years that we've been talking about is because of this situation. So your turn now is to take a stand. And this is my contribution. I thank God to be able to stand up for my nation all the time and for my family.
Yes, and we appreciate you. We appreciate your contribution. Lambi, you want to take one more call before we go along?
Yes. Good evening, caller. Please go ahead.
Good evening, Lambi.
Hey, sir. How are you doing, my brother?
I'm all right. Thank you for taking my call. I really appreciate it. I've been trying for the longest time, but it's okay. So, good evening to Mr. Gregoire, and good evening to Dr. Thomson Fontaine.
That sounds like a voice that we know well, Dr. Fontaine.
I want to speak on three things quickly. First of all, I would like to give credit to Dr. Fontaine for this revelation. When I say revelation, I think he has brought something out in the public that is concerning to Dominicans, is concerning to the United States, and even to China. But more than just give credit to him, one of the things I appreciate about his approach is he was never rude. He never came across as being arrogant or being disrespectful. He referred to the guy as the prime minister, and he said the prime minister might be mistaken. And he spoke within his field. It's not like Thomson Fontaine was saying that he's an architect or a construction worker. He spoke within his field, and he spoke very humbly, and he spoke toward the fact. And I think he's speaking for the best of Dominica's future. That's my opinion. The other thing I would like to comment on is I suspect this is something that Dominicans should look at and say, here is this guy who, okay, he has made himself available to be the leader of the opposition party. So what it means is he has made himself available to serve the people. But also, here is it that he's getting information and research, and he's bringing out to the public to safeguard Dominica. That's not negative. That is a positive. And so, with that being said, I would argue that perhaps that this could be a call for some sort of collision. Forget party, forget personality, and say, okay, here is this guy, he's experienced in his field, he's bringing this thing toward us. This is what it is. Man, even if I'm a laborite, let me just understand if what he's saying is true. This is a time for us to come to a reality. And it's not just a collision between freedom or work. It's not against the government. It's for the people of Dominica. And so I would like to voice my opinion to say that this is a time for us to reflect and say, if anything that Dr. Fontaine has said is false, then we hold him charge to it. But if what he's saying is plausible, he should be given credit. And I think it should bring some sort of conciliation, i.e., even labor rights should tell him thank you. The final thing I will say, Lambi and Mr. Gregoire, is I listen to the news and I listen to what happened in Israel. I mentioned that because the president, prime minister, Netanyahu, is trying to somehow dissolve some powers of the judiciary over there. And the people said, no, you cannot do that. But my point is speaking toward the people of Dominica. What did they do? They peacefully protested, but in mass numbers. And so it's not just the elected officials that have to put themselves on the front line. The people said no. And they stopped it. So much so that Netanyahu right now is saying that he will propose it for 1 month and so forth. And the previous leader came in and said, 1 month is a joke. No, just take it out. What is my point? My point is simply, sometimes we have to stand up for what we believe in. Yes. And so I just felt I will give a little contribution tonight to appreciate the efforts of Dr. Fontaine, his research, and his hard work over the years, and his bravery as well. And the fact that he alone is on the global VNQ because he can. He has demonstrated it, and he's doing a very good job. So thank you, sir, for your service. Mr. Gregoire, thank you for having that program. And Nambi, thank you for taking my call.
And thanks a lot for your contribution. Very valuable contribution, Dr. Fontaine. Some merit in that.
Yes, absolutely. And thanks to Dr. George for that. I think it was very useful observation. And somebody was just drawing to my attention the recent episode with the bank in Dominica that was able to transfer the monies to Trump account.
$8 million.
money's coming from the Russians, and suggesting that it very well could be linked to this murkiness around transfer, because that's the whole thing. These platforms allow those types of transfers that you don't know who the sender is, and so it's very easy as well to transfer monies between jurisdictions. Once you have this wallet, as I said, you can make payments at ease. You can transfer any sums of money, any amounts, because there is a valuation to whatever current cryptocurrency you have. So it just opens up a whole world of that you can really exploit if you're not on the up and up. And that's some of what we are saying.
You see, Dr. Fontaine, I was saying earlier, seem to basically the pattern is the same, They just find a way to get around the regulations. In China, for example, in Montferrat, they found a way to get around the US sanctions against Iran.
Right. Iran, exactly.
But
we were right there in the center of all of it. We were right there aiding Montferrat to evade UN sanctions against, and now this,
here's the problem. With all this money that Montferrat is making and this man's son is making, everybody's making, we're still not hearing much going to our public officers. For years, we're hearing about 0 and 1% and 2% and 0.5%. We're not hearing anything. We know that our teachers are struggling, our nurses are struggling, our firemen are struggling, our police officers are struggling. All of our public officers are struggling. And I listened to the General Secretary of the DPSU a few days ago, and he said that, in fact, the time is coming soon when they're going to be sitting around the table with the administration to discuss, among other things, salary increases and work conditions and whatnot. So let us hope that what will come out of this is some meaningful increases for all of those persons that I've spoken to, because we know what is happening in inflation. You're very well positioned, Dr. Fontaine, to talk to us about the impact of inflation on our people on the mega salaries that we have in this country. And also, we know what the COVID situation did to everybody down there, to our businesses and so on. So coming out of all of that, obviously, these people have had to tighten their belt for years, So I'm just hoping that they're not going to have any big problem in terms of those negotiations to offer a decent package to all of the public officers. After all, we were quite elated. We gleefully said that we exported $214 million to foreign workers, send them home to their people. 214 million, Thomson.
Which is almost double the wage bill to our public servants. It's about $109 million.
Yes, and make it worse, we have absolutely no idea what this man's son got. I'm not saying I don't know if he got anything, but we have no idea whether he got, and if he got, how much he got.
Yeah.
We have absolutely no idea. We have no idea whether, in fact, the $4.2 billion being traded on this platform there,
right,
in somebody's wallet and in several people's wallets, just going all over the place and getting London. We do not know, so we have to raise. And I really wish that somebody would come out and explain to the ordinary people in Dominica, why is it that they can hardly afford to buy rice and sugar when all these largesse of billions is going around all over the place in Dominica's name?
I tell you, Mr. G, and you have to feel for our public servants. I last taught in Dominica in 1993. That's so many, 29, almost 30 years ago. And the salary I was receiving then is almost the same amount that persons are receiving now, how many years later, and it's really troubling to me that in an environment of having so much, because if we had managed the resources from the sale of the passports well, the public servants would have gotten their pay increases, the jobs would have been created within the agriculture sector, the ganja industry would have been developed to a point where people would be making money. Young people in particular would be able to invest in cryptocurrencies because they would probably have some money to throw, but we don't have that. The fact of the matter is our people are impoverished. And as you said, inflation has been eroding the purchasing power. And the few people who have been able to work in Dominica are simply having difficulties making ends meet. It is rough. It is rough. And in that type of environment, you have a prime minister who is taking $64,000 a month. We have to remind the Dominican public of that. To live in a mansion, $64,000, which, by the way, Mr. J, is equivalent to about 5 years of salary for the average public servant. Average 5 years of salary. You have to work 5 long years to make $64,000 in Dominica that the prime minister spends in 1 month on rent in a mansion. That's the kind of, there is a term, well, it's a big word, I will not use it, but that is the kind of behavior that we see from our prime minister. And to me, it tells a lot. It reflects badly on us as a people, that we've allowed that to go on for so long, that our eyes somehow has been wide shut. Why are we not seeing what is going on? Why are we not seeing the behaviors of this gentleman linking up with those crooks and those criminals, making our diplomatic passports available to the likes of Madueke and this Corallo and all of those crooks and criminals across the globe? Why are we not seeing this? It is deeply troubling to me, and I truly feel for the young people of Dominica and our public servants in particular.
Thomson, I really need to ask you this, because we need to understand really, and in a very clear way, for all of our people who are listening and watching and so on, we need to understand clearly, why is it that we as Dominicans should be very concerned about this development? And then, of course, we need to go beyond that. And we need to ask you, as a leader of a major political party that is poised to form the next government, and so you could become the next prime minister if this country gets free and fair elections based on electoral and campaign finance reforms. I really need to ask you, what is it that you would do differently that would lift Dominicans out of this morass, this recurring cycle of poverty, and now it's even becoming mendicancy. And it seems to me that people cannot just stay poor like that forever. 70,000 people on an island, and we cannot find a way to make their life better. That we are only giving them little handouts in brown paper bags with a couple of pounds of sugar and so on. I mean, come on, can't we do better? I'm pretty sure the prime minister was right. He said, Thomson, Fontaine, he's been out there in the world. He has a world view. He has a bigger view of what is going on in the world. Maybe you can advise us what it is that you do differently from him, because his world view is simply translating into some people getting very rich and the majority of the people being poor, because I am not seeing the impact of all this largesse on the ordinary man in Dominica, on the farmer, on the contractor, on the truck driver, on the bus driver. Thank God the bus owners and drivers got a little raise recently, but then other people have to pay for that. The bus drivers needed the raise, they deserve the raise, but I think the other people need a raise too, so that they can afford to pay the higher bus fares and afford to pay for the goods in the stores, in the supermarkets, that inflation have caused the prices to go up all 15% and more, much more in some cases. So Fontaine, let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, Mr. J, I think it fundamentally, it comes down to the heart. And I think that's what sets me apart from the prime minister. And I'll explain what I mean by this. And I've been able to understand that with my travels, in particular in Africa. I have seen rich people who have means. I have seen them walk past persons. They don't even see them. They don't even see the poverty around them. They don't even have the heart to appreciate the difficulties that people are going through. You see a prime minister who have exhibited a tremendous amount of greed. Why do you need to stay in a $64,000 apartment when your average public servant makes $1,200 a month? Why do you need to build 2 and 3 apartments or mansions in a country the size of Dominica? Why? Well, you can only live in one room at a time. So I think that's the difference between me and the Prime Minister. I see people development. I have a heart for getting people out. So all my efforts, when I was in Dominica in 2017, my efforts was geared towards putting money in the pockets of the farmers because I felt for them. I have a heart for building them, developing them. In 2013, I left a lucrative job at the IMF to come back to Dominica to offer myself to help build my country. I could have stayed in the United States and make money and drive a fancy car and all these things if I was in pursuit of wealth. And I think that's the fundamental difference. The Prime Minister has lost as much as he pretends to care for elderly and so on. That is not the case. He's doing that to secure his vote. But if the Prime Minister genuinely cared about the people of Dominica, if he genuinely cared about the farmers of Dominica, don't you think that he would have, instead of giving money to Hayden, instead of giving money to this son guy, don't you think he would have put this money into developing agriculture? What I would do differently, as the Prime Minister of this country, I would have used the CBI resources to develop the agriculture sector. We would have the #1 agriculture sector in Dominica. We would be feeding all of the Caribbean countries. We would be into agro-processing. We would be creating opportunities for our young people. We would not be somehow wishing our young people would get opportunities in cryptocurrency. Instead, we would develop Dominica as a hub that young people would be able to work, get trained, and be able to participate in creating and generating wealth. Okay, because that can only come from a genuine care for and love for people, which is what the Prime Minister lacks. Okay, so I think that is what I would do differently in terms of the use of the resources. I would never and could never allow a foreign person to be over a local Dominican. I could never allow foreign companies into Dominica where there are local Dominican companies that can do the work. Never, ever. When there is excess work, yes, you can come in. But the first set of work being created have to go to Dominica. So it's a care about our people. It's a care about developing our people. I mean, look at the country. The country has hardly moved in 25 years. We have gone nowhere. We've just been going from side to side. $300 to our senior citizens. Our senior citizens in the twilight of their lives should be able to live without having to worry about where the next meal is coming from. $300 cannot do that. I would have been able to use those resources from the CBI program to build a healthcare system that everybody, including myself, would be able to use. That is how you show your care and your love for your people, not by taking your wife overseas to make a babies, not by running away overseas and anybody else who goes to the hospital, there's a 50-50 chance of they coming out alive. You know, that is what I think fundamentally is different between me and this Prime Minister. He squandered the resources that have come out of Dominica, because at the end of the day, he doesn't give one hoot about the people of Dominica. He doesn't have the heart because he feels that suddenly he's the richest Prime Minister in the world, probably in the world. Now, at least in the Caribbean region, he has all the wealth that he would ever need. He can build there, build the other, do this, do the other, and to help with everybody else. You know, but that is not what, as a leader, you're chosen for. As a leader, you're chosen to provide for your people, to make the lives of your people better. And the legacy of this Prime Minister will be that he's made the life of every single Dominican worse than when he took office.
The United Workers' Party, Dr. Fontaine, has always made it very clear that they will give priority to the development of the essential oil industries. Essential oils, I'm including cannabis, not only as a medical product, but as a nutritional product, as a personal care product for lotions and creams and so on. We know that some of your young people are already investing in that. We know the potential, we know the kind of market that it exists, and we know our potential in producing. I believe the focus was wrong in just trying to allow people to smoke a couple of grams of cannabis. I don't think that is what the young people really want. The young people want to grow and develop wealth so that they can buy their own home and buy their own vehicle and be able to support a family and so on and send their kids to school. I think that is what they would prefer to do rather than just be by the road smoking a spliff. What is it that you would do in your government or administration would do to really boost that cannabis industry, which is a world industry, which is a thing that has tremendous profit margin for Dominica, which could employ a significant number of people, and is a kind of industry in which I think a lot of these young people would want to engage.
And you know, we are so well placed, Mr. G. We are so well placed to reap tremendous benefits from this industry. I believe that the quality of ganja that we can grow in Dominica would allow us, even with the research and so on, to probably even surpass what is grown in Jamaica and St. Vincent and so on. Okay. My government, as the United Workers' Party, would have a policy of ensuring that we get maximum benefit from medicinal marijuana. Obviously, we will not prosecute young people for, smoking a joint, but at the same time, we will not encourage them to. All right, because we believe that in their best interest, they could create opportunities within the sector. Okay, and that is what we would strive to do, to create wealth. Ultimately, my aim is to create wealth for the people of Dominica, in particular the young people. And the way you do that is by using the resources that you have. We talk about the essential oils industry. I remember in 2014 around the election, I was very vocal about areas that we can look into, the making goat cheese and using our essential oil, having a critical essential oil industry, because we are blessed with the lemongrass, with the vetiver, with the bay leaf. We have it there in the ground. We have it within us, within the country, growing wild on the street everywhere. So harnessing that, making use of that, developing the industry, getting the foreign direct investment, getting the investors to come in, to take a look, to put in the money, put in the infrastructure. These are the things that I would do, because ultimately, Mr. G, for me, it is about how do you give a hand up? How do you help people out? Not how you create a welfare state. No, let people work. Let people enjoy going to work, creating things, doing things, creating wealth. At the end of the day, as a government, you create the enabling environment that would allow everybody. And if from that, persons make more money than you, it's okay. It's fine. But it seems to me the Prime Minister is on a race to ensure that no Dominican ever gets close to where he is in terms of wealth, not remembering that is the very same Dominicans who put him where he is. And, it is really a tragedy when you think about the governance in Dominica, when you think about the country in Dominica. We were just featured as the most beautiful country out of 15 Time magazine, the most beautiful country. And how are we benefiting? How is our tourism sector benefiting from that? Look at the kind of problems we have over an airport, and questions are still being asked. Will we ever get an international airport? Look at the kind of problems we're having. How do we maximize? How do we get the most out of what we have in Dominica? And these are questions I believe that the Prime Minister is simply not willing to answer, simply not willing to pay attention to. As far as he's concerned, he's on his own merry way with all of his riches, all of his wealth, and the rest of the Dominican public has sous sell, as our friends would say.
Well, the question he said was, if not passports, then what? But then after he got the passports and the tremendous amount of money that came from that, what did he do with it? And that is what I think, when I asked you that question, what would you have done in your administration? I noticed immediately your face changed. Your spirits got lifted. I don't know if it's your heart that started pumping up, but I could see the way you spoke about helping people and making people get wealthy and lifting out of poverty. I saw your face lighted up. So let me just ask you another follow-up question to that, because I think this is really what your passion is about. Lambi, do you have a call that you want us to take now?
Yes, we do. Caller, please go ahead. He left.
Okay, so let me just ask you a follow-up, because I know that I can see that you're in the moment, that you're passionate about helping people and growing people, developing people and making their lives better. You know, we are in the age of technology. We talk now about the knowledge industries, and we're now looking at, does Lambi have another call?
Yeah, the caller's back. Caller, please go ahead.
Yes, good evening. Dr. Fontaine, the Almighty bless you for opening our eyes in this country. It is really, really sad what is happening, and it appears that as I called some time ago, I mentioned the fact that Dominica is a paradise, but I hate to say it that way, but it seems we are becoming a fool's paradise. I don't know why we can sit there and just let one man just do what he wants in the country. And it's money. Every single Dominican, with a bit of common sense, I'm not even talking about the educated ones, those with a bit of common sense should have seen by now that this man's ego has overtaken even himself. His ego has become even bigger than him. And it's not about Dominica, it's about he and his few friends. Look at Rosso. There are lands, properties are bought around Rosso. Who is buying those properties? Nobody wants to know. Dice has that song. No, everyone sees, but nobody knows.
Yes.
But in the same breath, I will use that same song of Dice again. That Chichi song, which seems to be such a reality. Did he come back politicking, and power was there for the taking? All those who thought he was joking, his ambition is to become the richest politician. I just make it, I may even have to say the word now. And it is rather sad that public servants who are struggling, who has gone from $1 to 25 cents now, who cannot go to the grocery shops, the supermarkets, and do a good grocery without shaking their head, without wondering what is happening. We have an inflation taking place in that country. Everybody feeling it. Everybody know it. Everybody feeling it, but nobody seems to want to stand up and talk about it. I don't know if it's a spell that country is under. And if it's a spell, then where those that are praying? Have they also joined the bandwagon in getting rich for themselves and forget to pray? I don't know what is really happening in that country. It is really, 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 really sad. And that's the reason I'll conclude. Dominica may be a paradise, but I am one that stand believing it has become a fool's paradise. I'm listening.
Yes, and thank you for listening. I thought your contribution was excellent. It's obvious that you're really feeling what is happening yourself. Thomson, I have to say that the caller is right, because the dollar that people are making now, it can buy less than what it used to buy a few years ago because of the inflation, because the price of goods have gone up. Everything has gone up. And yet, especially in the public service, these salaries have just not made any progress. They've not made any headway. These people are really working for the same thing for the last so many years. And I'm not so sure why these people in office cannot feel for these people who are working in the public service. Lamb, you want to take another call?
Yes. Caller, please go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Lambert Charles. All right. Listen, I have this one for Thomson. What he would do with all the water that's going down to the sea? What plans he have for it? And if he would make Marigot stay 10 years, the Northeast stay 10 years without a hospital? That's all I got to say.
Yes, Thomson, I don't know whether you wanted to.
It is deeply heartbreaking, and Mr. G, when you talk about public servants, because I worked in the public service in Dominica, I understand the agony. And to think that this, to think of how these people have been suffering over all of those years. Dedicated teachers, dedicated police officers, dedicated firemen, dedicated nurses. And to think that at the end of the day, they can barely knock two stones together. They can barely make ends meet. You know, it is truly heart-rending. And with regards to the water, again, that is a no-brainer. Why are we not harnessing our water? Why are we not bottling our own water in Dominica? What is wrong with that? Why is that not been done? These monies from the CBI program could have been channeled into those areas, into sustainability, having a state-of-the-art hospital in Marigot. Why punish the people of Marigot? You know, so Mr. G, you know, it is something that I talk about it, and I feel it every day, because I not only do I talk to people send me their stories on an almost daily basis. I get an average of 5 to 10 messages a day about conditions on the island. Somebody's having a problem, you know, and it is sometimes it gets overwhelming, because you really feel for the people. You really feel what they're going through. Our people are suffering, our people are hurting in Dominica. And at the same time, we have this guy on the international stage pretending that he could care less, being callous about his relationships with these crooks and criminals, not caring about the damage to the image of the country. All the while, our people are continuing to suffer. You know.
I can see that. I can see that you're passionate about this, Thomson. I can see that, and I can feel what you're feeling about it for the people. But let me just read something somebody just said to me. Yes, the bus drivers did get a recent raise, a small raise, but then that raise probably was not even enough to pay for the increases in the fuel prices. So, I mean, the thing is that everybody needs a raise, right? I mean, the whole country needs a raise. I mean, why can't the Prime Minister and the people in the administration agree to give the public servants the same kind of raise they give to the cabinet ministers and they give to himself? Give the people a reasonable raise. If you think you deserve it, why can't they deserve it too? And I hope certainly that when they go around the bargaining table, and they will sit and be reasonable and give the people a decent raise. I think they deserve it. So people should not have to any longer complain, okay, the bus fares went up by $2. How am I going to pay that? No, give them a raise so that they can pay it.
Yeah, you know, I remember when that was announced, somebody sent me a text and said, I to be honest, I can't even afford to pay the 50 cents increase.
Right. Lambi, you have another call?
I am budgeted.
Right to the T. Lambi, you want to take a call?
Yes. Caller, please go ahead.
Gentlemen, you know, I have to call again. Mr. G, as you mentioned, water. Remember some years ago, before this government came into office, that there were tankers coming in to carry our water to the Virgin Islands and other places. By the boatloads of water, those tankers used to come in. And so, you know, so all the amount of water that was being flown into the sea, it was exported. It was exported to other islands. Now we don't have one how you call them again, free. We don't have one free coming in for a gallon of water now. This government has just stole everything that brought money into our treasury. So the only development that we have now, the only investment that we have now is investments to line their pockets. That is all. According to Sparrow, that is all. That is all. That is all. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you, caller. Mr. G, you're going to ask me a follow-up.
Yes, I want to ask you a follow-up. You see, because this question, this interjection, you're coming in so handy. But I want to put you in your comfort zone, Thomson. Really, the reason is because I know that the UWP has been talking about those things. You're the leader of that team now. And I believe if you get into government with a team and what the policies that the UWP has been preaching, and I know that you are now galvanizing and building on that, you know, and adding value to what was there already. I want to ask you this, because you see, as you can see, we are in a new age. You know, we spoke a little bit about the financial market and what development are taking place. There's nothing wrong with those developments, you know. It's how you position yourself to take advantage of them. If you're going to go with crooks and criminals, that's not the way to go. But you can really take advantage. So I want to put the question to you. In these days of technology, when you have knowledge industries, where that is where the young people of Dominica could really have a stake. That is where they could really earn a living. They could stay in Dominica and work for any company anywhere in the world and earn US dollars. I'm not seeing anybody working on that for them. And then, of course, when you talk about this financial market, Dr. Fontaine, tell us how you and your team will take advantage of that and to use that to build this economy.
Yeah, you know, Mr. G, I'm extremely proud to be the leader of the United Workers' Party. Extremely proud to be working with a group of persons who have committed and sacrificed and continue to sacrifice over all of those years in opposition, who continue to fight. And we have a great group of people. We meet every week. We discuss national issues. We discuss strategy. We plan. So I'm really happy to be a part of this group and to be able to lead this group. You know, and it's a matter of how we can position ourselves to take advantage of opportunities that are there. You know, and one of the things is that I would absolutely be pushing is this knowledge-based industry, where, as you said, people can, you know, it is kind of ironic. I remember in when was it? Could have been in 2000, and Prime Minister Skerritt was still the education minister, and I brought a proposal to him as education minister, and I hope he remembers this. It was to have our students in the schools get trained to be Cisco certified. At the time, Cisco was doing a certification program where, as a certified Cisco engineer, you would be able to stay in Dominica and service computers anywhere in the world, you know, do the software part and so on. And Cisco, I had a very good friend who was in the management at Cisco, who actually wanted to come and put the program in Dominica, that we would train not only Dominicans, but the regional persons. And I went to the Prime Minister with the proposal. And I hope he remembers that. And he did nothing about it. That's an opportunity that was lost. And it was from that time I realized this guy does not really care about people. Because coming to you as education minister with that project, you would think that you would jump on that with both hands, because it would have been an opportunity very early on to get our young people ahead of the game, get them trained, get them skilled into it. I'm making this point to say that I'm not a Johnny come lately. I've been around the rodeo, you know, looking at areas that would benefit Dominicans. So it's not now. I am the leader of the party, poised to assume the next government, and I will not continue to pursue it. And with regard to the financial markets, there are opportunities there as well. But it has to be done in a way that, you know, you can, for example, a number of governments, what they do is that they invest in mutual funds. They invest in mutual funds that has a sure return. So they take some of the resources from the state and they invest in this. You know, we have one of the most brilliant individuals in the stock market, Jones Murthy, who was the vice president of Bank of America, who handled some of the largest accounts, running in the billions of dollars, making hundreds of millions of dollars for Goldman Sachs, for Bank of America. And we never used this gentleman. We never used him. You know, he was brought to the attention of the government that this is a guy who very well could be entrusted with some money to invest on behalf of the country in mutual funds, in secure bonds and so on, that you don't lose, but over time you make money. So that's how, certainly as somebody who understands the way the stock market works, who is personally invested in the stock market in the United States, that is something I would certainly do. I would certainly pursue for the government, because that's the way of making additional resources, making the money work for you, that you can then reinvest in the country. Another call.
You want to take a call before you go on?
Yes, on the international line. Caller, please go ahead.
Good evening. Thank you for taking my call. You guys hit a topic that's quite interesting, the fact of getting technology educated people or other areas with Dominican can work overseas. But I don't know, maybe Mr. G remember this. There was a program, I think the DFP started a program where you have seasonal agricultural farmers or seasonal employees will go to the United States and work as seasonal employees in the United States, whether it's in Florida or different parts in the U.S. Also, coincidentally, I'm hearing the years 2020, 2021. If you remember clearly, there were diplomatic relationships signed with, I think it was Syria, when Minister Barnes at the time was foreign minister. And also that same cryptocurrency situation going on, all happening around the same time with that picture. It is very sad to announce to you guys that because of one of the businesses that are in the U.S., we will actually qualify to bring seasonal farmers into the United States. Dominicans that could work for a company for good wages between 15 and 21 US dollars an hour. And it just happened to be, we found out that Dominica actually has been banned from the list of those islands in the Caribbean from people that are capable of coming to work as seasonal agricultural farmers during planting and harvesting time in the U.S. What is quite interesting, according to the immigration person or lawyer I spoke to, who were trying to get those Dominicans to come to the U.S. to work with us, is that she said Dominican was removed from that list because of its involvement with other countries and the treaty arrangements. So therefore, Dominica no more longer is qualified to be part of that program. And this is a very serious matter because these people could come up, work, and make good money. And I'm sure that a lot of people remember people that went, whether it was corn and cane, cotton and rice in Louisiana, wherever they were. A lot of people not know this, but Dominicans can no longer participate in this program. You may be able to go to Canada in some of those programs. And this is something a lot of people don't know. There's a website, you can look at that. And as a business person, people in the U.S. can tell you can get employees. And what a great opportunity to get Dominicans to come up to work in the U.S. to earn those wages. The qualification Dominicans can have now is if you have a bachelor's degree and you have to advertise the job to show you can get anyone in that jurisdiction to take the job, that's the time the person have an opportunity. But they must have a bachelor's degree, and it must be a bachelor's degree that can be recognized in the U.S. So this is how serious this thing is. I mean, then we will have more discussion about this as time goes, but these are the consequences countries face when they sign diplomatic relationship with other countries without thinking right about this, without looking at the bigger picture. And this is important. Thank you guys for the time.
Well, thank you very much for that, Dr. Fontaine. I don't know whether you are familiar with this, but caller seems to be saying that as a result, one of the reasons that we may have been eliminated from that list to be able to import farm workers from Dominica to allow them to go to the U.S. is because Dominica may have signed this agreement with Syria. You remember that recent agreement? I don't know whether you're familiar with any sort of reaction by the U.S. administration.
I remember this, and I also remember the farm program that has been around as long as I can remember. Even as a kid, I remember guys, a few guys from Grand Forks used to go up to Canada and to the US, and they would have come back and have little money around, the village and so on. I remember that quite well. So what I'm hearing is news to me. I've not heard it before. So it's certainly something that we need to look at if that if that's the case. But that's very, very interesting. If we are no longer able to benefit from this, this was an outlet for some of our people.
Right, because he's saying he actually tried to bring in some of these workers, and he was not able to, and he was able to.
That is very interesting.
Is not been struck off that list. So
that is very interesting, and that is something we certainly can take up with the American embassy as well. Right. It's news to me, and But yeah, but it shows that that there are consequences for your actions. No man is an island. No country is an island, really. We are
Well,
part of a global community.
and that is why I always say, elections have consequences. And you see, one of the consequences is if you happen to get bad governance, then all of those things that we're talking about happen. And then you find that, you see, I've seen a difference. There's a side of you I had not really looked at close up before, Thomson. And I saw the change in your demeanor when you started talking about helping people, when you started talking about lifting people out of poverty, when you started talking about creating growth for people, seeing people grow, come alive, and their lives change, improvement in their living standards and their quality of life. I saw your face light up when you were hoping that you could become an administration of your team that could do that for people in Dominica, so that all these people don't have to be in this poverty cycle anymore. You could lift them out of that. I do not think it is that difficult. Look, one of the callers said we used to export all this water. Why on earth can't we still do it? What excuse are we going to find to say we cannot bottle water in Dominica? How can that be? That does not make sense. We have to do it. That's the point. And I mean, I'm not sure I understand why any administration cannot see that if you're going to have, just 1 second, Lambi, we'll take the call. If you're going to have billions of dollars coming in the passport, take some of it and put into some of those industries, for God's sake.
No brainer.
Lambi, let's take some calls.
Caller, please go ahead.
Yeah, good evening, Lambi. Good evening, Mr. G. And good evening, the leader of the opposition. Mr. G, I was one of the persons that used to work on the water boats. It was called ENC.
Right.
I was a bosun on that boat. And
Right.
we used to go to St. Martin, we used to go to St. Thomas, and the French Islands, and we were doing really, really good. We Church was the agent for that boat, Mr. Ed. So it was really, really doing good. And every week we were in Dominica collecting at Focoli. Yeah, we used to get the water from the bulk at Focoli, and then we used to go to these places. And it was really, really doing good. So I was one of the guys working on that particular boat. And a matter of fact, we were supposed to get a next boat because there's so much water that we were exporting to these places. We were supposed to get a next boat from Canada. And for some reason, I didn't know what happened, and everything went kibosh. But yes, it was really, really doing good, and it was really, really improving until I don't know what happened. It got kibosh. Thank you.
And thanks a lot for reminding us of that. You were there, for sure, so you can verify that it's factually correct that Dominica used to export water. But Thomson, here's the thing. There is so much more demand now for water all around us. I mean, water is the next green gold, right? I mean, there's so much demand for water.
Something that every human being must consume. Something that's a short supply in the neighboring countries.
Have you seen the price of water? I mean, come on. I mean, we can sell water. I mean, why is this such a difficult thing for us to do? Why do we have to say, okay, well, if passports, then what? Yes, okay, but use the money from the passports to do water, to do cannabis industries, the oil industries, to do high value industries. Why not? I mean, why on earth everything has to go into one sector of the economy? That makes no sense. No, that is not a good policy at all. And that is a very poor strategy if you really want to create growth for everybody. If you just want to have growth for a few, it's an excellent strategy. But if you want everybody to get a piece of the pie, it's not a good strategy.
Mm-hmm.
And I was saying that I really noticed how you light it up and you started talking about helping people in those ways. And what I'm aware of is that a lot of people, you hear people say, Dominicans are lazy and young people don't want to work. That's not true.
That's not true at all.
That's not true. Lambi, you want to take a call? Yeah, that's not true. Young people want to work.
That's not true.
Yeah.
I always mention, Mr. G, that Dominicans are the most hardworking people. The same Dominicans who don't want to work, you drop them off in Pointe-à-Pitre or in SM, and the next day they're doing free for jobs, right? Because the Dominicans are naturally industrious. you know, and I believe that if with the right leadership in Dominica, we can get the full potential from our young people. You know, not by allowing them to just be smoking spliff on the road and say, okay, you know, you cannot if it goes. Nah, that's not how you develop the potential. It's about developing the potential. It's about creating the environment so that they can have the jobs that they need to express themselves. As simple as that.
I mean, do you know, Thomson, these young people, they're screaming out to us, telling us, no, I'm not lazy, I'm enterprising, I want to own my own business. Lambi, you want to take a call?
Yes. Caller, go ahead, please.
Yeah, Lambert, I want you to remember something. You remember the youth camp program?
Yep.
Where guys from the whole Caribbean used to come down to Dominican and do all kind of stuff, mechanics, farming, all kind of stuff. You remember that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I just want you to remember that. This is Prezi, man. I'll go on.
All right. And this is the point. You see, Dominicans are industrious. Listen, Thomson, you know you went around yourself and Danny Lugia and a few people, and you all were buying stuff from the farmers. The farmers were producing, and you were ready to go and expand on that. We look around and we see a lot of these young people from Salisbury, from Marigot, from all over the country, all over the various communities. They're creating a lot of fabulous products. They're making soaps, they're making lotions, they're making all kinds of these people are doing that on their own initiative with very little help.
Very little help, or zero help from the government.
Very little.
You can encourage these people. You can set examples. You know, you can create a middle class. You know, I mean, that's what you want to do. That's what you want to do. You want people who can generate wealth, who can do things, and you know, experiment with different things, and you know, but they need the support. They need the help. And they're not getting the help from this government. They're not. Our prime minister is too busy rubbing shoulders with the Justin sons of the world to care about the young people, and that is where our problem is in Dominica. The prime minister has overstayed his welcome, man. I'm sorry.
Well, I think we need to change our priorities, but I think maybe there's something called electoral reform, which is in the air. We need to have that. We need to have the proper laws, the proper regulations, and the legislation. And we need to have a very strong, independent electoral commission, an electoral office that can ensure that the legislation is followed so that we can have free and fair elections to get good governance. Lambi, you want to take another call?
Yes. Caller, please go ahead.
Good evening, guys. Good evening, esteemed gentlemen. And good evening to the great Dr. Thomson Fontaine. I see you bright, you're looking good. Take care of yourself, you know, and Mr. G and everybody. You know, I've been listening, you know, and it's hitting my heart. This guy is a wicked guy. Mr. Scarrett is a wicked ruler. And the people of Dominica need to open their eyes. This guy bring Dominica to nothing. In 25 years, we have no export. We have so much thing to export on the island. And this guy all over the world making deals with crooks and criminals on his behalf. And he's just enriching himself. And I'm telling the people of Dominica, they must open their eyes and try to get back. For Dominica to grow, Scarrett must go. The people of Dominica, it's time to take your country back. Yeah, thank you very much.
And thanks a lot for that contribution there. So Thomson, as we sort of start to wind up our discussion, I thought incidentally we had a great discussion. I like the exchange. It's a new area we've looked at. There is the negative side, which is the wrong approach, and rubbing shoulders with the wrong people, right? We're going about it the wrong way. And the reason we're going about it the wrong way is because it almost seems that we're deliberately creating a policy where only a few will benefit and the large majority are out of the loop. It almost appears that way. I certainly hope that's not what is being planned and being implemented, but certainly it's the wrong thing because it's not translating into growth and wealth for the ordinary man in Dominica throughout the communities. And so I believe we need a new paradigm shift. We have a whole new change of heart. You see what I saw in you tonight? I would like to see that in all of our leaders. The heart, because you see, everything comes from the heart. When you look at ordinary people who are struggling, come on, don't tell me that you have the vendors who have been by the bayfront for years doing a tremendous job and you're trying to move them around as though they're nobody. You know, you cannot do that. These are important people. I mean, we have people who are heroic, people like Annette Centilly and Vina. These people started out that we look at what they became. Look at people like Baitri and like Suki. Look at what these people became. We have to uplift our people. And as you said, these people, we have to grow them to bring them into the middle class. We cannot have them struggling and putting all kind of foreign people in all the buildings in Roseau, in the shops, and we have them on the sidewalks, on the tents, over the drains. And when it's raining, you have, and people are struggling to make a sale. We cannot do that. That is not what a government is supposed to do for its people. Let me give you the final word on this, Thomson.
As you were talking, Mr. G, I was just thinking of our fishermen, for example. There was a time under the United Workers' Party government, the fishermen only had to worry about catching the fish. Once they landed, it was taken away from them, and it went sent to the fishery areas and was sold from there. Now, if you look at the struggling guys, they have to come after they're out there struggling. They come on shore, they have to spend time trying to sell the fish. Sometimes it's late at night and they're there, trying to get fish sold and so on. And you just think of how difficult life is in Dominica for every sector. And it is that trend that I've seen, and it is so bad, Mr. G, that there are people who believe that there is no better way, that there are people who believe because that's all they know, that is the way it's supposed to be. I've been having a hard time convincing some Dominicans that things can be different, that this is simply not how it should be. We should not be struggling like that in a country of 74,000 people, in a country that is blessed with so much stuff from the good Lord. We are blessed with so many resources, and yet we are struggling. Yet our people are looking for a way out. Our people are migrating. Negative population growth in Dominica because people are looking for the first chance they can get to migrate out of Dominica. We need to change that. We need to have people, encourage people to stay. But the way they're going to stay is when we have the jobs, when you know that you can work this job. If you commit yourself after a certain time, you can move on. You can get opportunities. You can do different things. You can enjoy life. Very little enjoyment of life in Dominica at this point. Complete hardships. And when you look at those hardships and you compare it with the lavish lifestyle of a prime minister and you have to think of what guts it takes to be a leader of a country and to be so far above the rest of your people. 64,000 rent. I mean, this is something is wrong. This is not even normal behavior. Right. So there is something wrong that we need to change. But again, the onus is on the people of Dominica. We are the ones who have to decide that we want a difference. We're the ones to decide that we can make this country a better place. And the way we begin to do that is by getting rid of this government that has for 24 odd years or thereabouts literally destroyed everything good that's in Dominica, destroy the institutions, destroy the agriculture sector, destroy the manufacturing sector, destroy the public service, you name it. Every single sector of this economy has been brought to the knees by this government. So the way you start, the way you address that, the way you reverse that is you start with number one. The number one priority is to get this government out. And that's why we need to continue to pursue electoral reform. We cannot relent on electoral reform. I said in my acceptance speech as leader of a party that we either get reforms or we take it. Either way, we are going to have reforms. Okay, and we should never relent on that. We should never give up on that. We should never not continue to make that a priority. That continues to be the priority of the party that I lead, electoral reform. Make sure that we get electoral reform. And when election comes, whether in next year or whenever it comes, be prepared to make that change. And I believe that the people of Dominica, their eyes are being opened as hard as it takes. There are certain days you take a long time to get up. You want to get up, but you just cannot, I think we are getting to the point where we are coming to the end of that. We are beginning to understand that things can be different. And I'm really much encouraged by what I've been hearing when I've been on the ground in Dominica, what people are saying to me. I am very much encouraged by this, encouraged by the new spirit within the party, the new desire for people to really pull together and do what is important and what is necessary to move this country forward. And we have to start, as I said, with getting a change of government. And once we do, we can begin to do what we know how to do. We can begin to care for and really lift this country up. So, Mr. G, I'm not necessarily pessimistic. I think I am more optimistic than pessimistic. I understand the pitfalls, I understand the challenges, I understand the hurdles that has to be cleared. But I believe that with the faith and the confidence that we have and the belief that better days ahead for Dominica, that we will get to that point. There is absolutely no doubt in my mind. As I always say, life is a cycle. So we have the Labour Party going down this way, whilst the United Workers' Party and the opposition continues to go up. And that's just the way it is.
Now, in short, Dominica's best days are still ahead.
Absolutely.
Down and out now. I mean, the people are feeling the pinch.
Absolutely.
But I think we can look ahead. I think Dominica's best days are ahead. Mm-hmm. And when I looked at you tonight and I saw your eyes lit up and your whole body posture changed, your gam, as people say, changed when you started talking about doing things to help people and to uplift them and make their lives better, improve their living standards and the quality of life, lift them up into the middle class. Your Pamuntu,
mm-hmm.
That is what my good friend like to say.
Come on, why can they be driving the cars and having the nice homes and so on? Why not be able to take their holidays? Why not?
Exactly.
Why not?
This is what it's all about. I mean, you're talking 70,000 people. It should not be such a big, huge deal to uplift 70,000 people. That's the number of people that's in a stadium, for God's sake, for football.
I'm telling you.
We can do better, Thomson. I'm very happy that I had you tonight. I think we got to bring you back, though. And this famous report on electoral reform with the new draft recommended laws come in, I think we have to come back and look at that, because that might be the last stand to ensure that whatever comes out in that report, the people of Dominica had already spoken long ago when they had presented a report with recommendations to the Electoral Commission and to Sir Dennis Byron as to what they really wanted. All of the groups came together and they contributed to that. I remember Pastor Rodney and all these folks and, were in there. All of the groups were there, including the church. And so the people already spoke. So all of this talk about various kind of things, machinations, I think the people know what they want. And I think on this program, we've had several programs here on the Global View, and we broke that down into the 3 basic things that are required. So simplify it, remove all the mystic behind it, clean the voters list, re-register people in Dominica. So make sure when you re-register, you show up, you re-register. Only dead people out, because dead people cannot come and re-register. They're gone, right? And then ensure that you put the laws in place. And I personally want to fix the Electoral Commission. 5 people is not enough. Put more people. Let civil society be properly represented. All the major sectors be properly represented, so that the politicians do not necessarily have all the say. So the government, because you appointed 2 people and the chairman, all of a sudden you control. That cannot be. That is not what democracy is supposed to be about. When we look at the construction of the US system, yes, Biden has an administration, he has his executive there, he has his cabinet, but then you have 2 chambers, right? You have the House of Representatives and you have the Senate. If the House of Representatives do agree and so on, the Senate do agree, Biden can't do anything. He can pass some of these, temporary, laws and so on, what do you call them? But he cannot say he can kind of just take decision on his own. The President of the United States has less power in his constitution, less power vested in him than our Prime Minister has vested in it. Our Prime Minister has too much power in the constitution. And we need to fix that. I know you.
It is something we need to look at. Absolutely, constitutional review is a must.
I'm saying that to you because you are potentially the next prime minister. I'm telling you, Thomson Fontaine, I will tell you that we have to review the constitution and eliminate all this power in the hands of one man. It's not good for country. It's not good for democracy. We have to fix it. The people have to be in charge of the government. It cannot be the other way around.
Absolutely.
So, Thomson, thank you so much for being here tonight. I want to thank all of the callers and thank all of the persons on Facebook who are still with us. And thank you so much for that. We did not take the time to acknowledge each and every person. But I mean, certainly you know that we felt your presence and we know you're there and we appreciate you being there. And I hope you'll be with us next Tuesday when we come with another program. I'm hoping, Thomson, that before next Tuesday, this famous report might be in.
Yes.
And we will have an opportunity to examine it and we'll come back and say whether we agree with what's in it or not. And we'll say, no matter what the report says, this is what we really want. And we want that very soon. I think this is what Dominicans have to say. You want the best thing, for the right thing. Just stand up for what is right. But I think, Thomson, you guys are going to have to put your heads together and raise some money so that if you're going to ask people to gather peacefully to express their demands for electoral reform and for free and fair elections, you're going to have to pay some bus fares because the bus fares went up. So all of the people all over the world who are listening and who are supportive of good and accountable government, free and fair elections and democracy, all of us should tighten our belt and put in our little 10, 20, 30 bucks and to make a big difference so that when the organizations that get together, and it seems to me the UWP is the largest organization, the largest support, and you're the leader of that organization. I hope you can galvanize the collaboration and the support and the unification of all the other groups. And I'm pretty sure that you're doing that already because your personality tells me that everybody gets along with Thomson. And so it seems to me this is what has to happen next. Dominicans at home and abroad have to make up their minds. Listen, if we want something, we have to go for it. If it's $1 million in it to raise, let's raise $1 million, right? Because I mean, 10,000 people, any gathering anywhere in Roseau will tell the story to whoever is in office. 5,000 will do it, far less for 10. So I'm just saying, Thomson, it seems to me they have to be the next level that Dominicans have to agree. We cannot put our hand on our head and cry, die, and say, oh, we'll never get electoral reform. No, we cannot say that. You want electoral reform, you have to get electoral reform. That's what it's all about. All right? So, Thomson, thank you so much for being here tonight.
Well, thank you, Mr. J. It's been excellent, and the engagements on social media has been phenomenal.
Right.
Let me say thanks to all of you, and let's keep hope alive. We cannot allow ourselves to be depressed or to give up at this point. I think we need to just push and get Dominica to that place where we believe it can be with good leadership. So thanks for the opportunity. Lambi, thanks as well. And
Lambi, thanks a lot. Great job as usual.
Go on,
Great job as usual. Thanks, Sherwin, for keeping us on the air. So, Thomson, until next time, we should talk soon again.
Sure. Have a
All
good
right,
one.
take care. Good night, everybody. Everybody on Facebook, on YouTube. Good night, everybody in Radio Land. Take care. See you next time.
Bye.
All right, bye.
Looking forward to having Thomson Fontaine perform the role of political leader of the UWP. As someone who has lived abroad for many years, I believe he will be a little wider and broader in his focus. These are the reasons why, whether or not the United Workers' Party is represented in Parliament, I shall make an attempt to engage the new leadership of that party in my capacity as Prime Minister.
Oh, no, 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 no. Oh, no, 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 no. Oh, no, 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 no. Oh, looking out my window, and I'm thinking of tomorrow, and I'm wondering what the future will be. Thinking of the children who are the victims of oppression, beaten down by wars and eaten up by starvation. I'm saying, when